So you want to become a business analyst. Now, in this video, I'm going to tell you how you can start from scratch and be a business analyst within 6 months. So follow each of these steps closely and listen carefully to what I'm going to explain to you, and let's build you a business analysis career. Let's jump in. So the very first stage of this process is that you need to research and really understand what is business analysis. That is actually one of the most fundamental and most important things, because a lot of people don't really actually understand, even though they might think they do. So go do some research on YouTube. You can look at all the videos in this channel. You'll certainly learn everything about business analysis, but there are also a lot of other videos that you can watch. So make sure that you just really understand what is business analysis, what does a business analyst actually do, and when you understand that, you will discover something magical about this profession. So what is that magical thing? You will discover that there's a lot of skills that a business analyst has or needs to be proficient at that is transferable from a lot of different parts of what we do in different and other roles. So that is something that you really need to understand, though, at a fundamental level, because this is going to help you in the next steps that we need to take. So you'll spend a few days to really understand what is business analysis. You'll start to learn that there are different types of business analysts out there. So you get really technical business analysts, and then you get people focusing on business process and business strategy, as well as specifically just being a general business analyst for business. So go do that research, spend a couple of days just to really understand deeply what is business analysis. So let's say you now understand that. So now let's jump into the next stage of this process. So if we then look at what do you need to do next for stage 2 or step 2 within this process, it's really about learning the skills. So you understand what a BA is, but now you really need to go and do some learning. And if you don't have any money to work with, you want to do all of this in a low budget or no budget way, you can still build a lot of knowledge by using the free resources on YouTube. You can learn practically anything on YouTube. So make sure that you delve into it and start learning what business analysis is all about. So some of the top skills that I think you should be very familiar with is you need to know how to interview people in terms of eliciting their business requirements. So understand what business requirements is all about, understand how to elicit an interview or how to run workshops as a business analyst. Then you need to be able to write requirements. So this means you need to be able to document user stories. So learn all about what is user stories, what is epics, how do they work, how do you write them? You'll find all of that on YouTube. Then the third thing you need to learn is you need to be able to draw a few different diagrams. And the diagrams that I believe are the most important is process diagrams, UML use case diagrams, as well as basic data flow diagrams or entity relationship diagrams. So make sure that you can do some data diagrams, therefore process diagrams, and functional diagrams, which is the use case diagrams. Understand what prototyping is. So understand things like what is wireframing, what is prototyping. So make sure that those core skills are things that you can do and that you can really get stuck into. So when you start learning what business analysis is, there is a lot of things to learn. So I would set aside about 2 months of full-time study. And this can be done by doing YouTube videos. There's lots of resources free on the internet as well. So if you don't want to sign up for a specific course, or you have to do this low budget, then go YouTube it. If you do have a bit of money and you can sign up for some training, have a look at some of the training courses that I offer, and you can see that in the description. But what types of skills should you really focus on when you want to launch yourself as a business analyst? First of all, you need to understand what is business requirements. You need to understand what are business requirements, stakeholder requirements, functional requirements, non-functional requirements. You also need to understand how to document those requirements. So understand how to write user stories, understand how to write user acceptance criteria. Then there are some principal concepts that you need to understand. So analyzing the current state. This is all about understanding a business's real problems. So do a root cause analysis, be able to map out processes in process diagrams. Think about being able to create use case diagrams, do data flow diagrams, be able to do a stakeholder analysis so that you know what is a RACI diagram, onion diagram, different matrices for stakeholder analysis. Then you can do, there are so many different techniques, but some of those are some of the really fundamental things. Then I would also think about things like overall business analysis, understanding some of the key knowledge areas, understand what it means to do critical thinking, and understand what it means, what is the different stages of a project. So understand things like the initiation stage, the analysis stage, the design, build, and test stage. So have that overall understanding. Also make sure you understand what is the different methodologies that's typically used, like agile methodologies or waterfall methodologies. Understand how those stages work. This is all fundamental business analysis knowledge that you can very realistically gain easily within 1 to 2 months of spending a bit of full-time work on really getting your hands dirty and learning this stuff and practicing this stuff. So that's very achievable. Doesn't really matter what your background is, by the way. So what's the third step? So let's delve into that. As part of what you're doing with your learning, you should think about what projects or volunteer opportunities can I initiate to build up some practical experience. Because yes, this is definitely something that employers like. But the good news here, just like I said in the first stage, the magic about business analysis is that there are a lot of transferable skills. So you will be able to take some of your previous experience working within almost any field or industry that could be transferable into business analysis. So that's partly why it's so important for you to understand what business analysis is and to learn these fundamental skills. Because what you can then do is you can look at what is your previous experience. Have you perhaps already done some business analysis in your previous life, but you didn't necessarily realize that you did that? If you do discover that you've got some experience that's transferable, then start to make note of that experience so that you can uplift it in your resume when we get to that step. But if you haven't got any experience that you can remotely relate to business analysis, what I would do is I would try and find volunteer opportunities in my current job. So let's say I'm working as a customer service agent within a customer services team. I promise you, and you'll probably be able to tell me about some issues you're experiencing, some process steps that's not really very efficient, or things that's just not quite working as well as they could. Your job is now to take some initiative and identify those things that's not working that well and try your best to suggest solutions for those. If you can do it to your manager or whoever you're working with, say to them, hey, I can potentially map out this process for us and we can potentially look at ways to improve this process, or I've got some ideas of how we could improve this process. And then what you do is you use all of your practical business analysis modeling techniques and skills that you've learned, and you create your own project, basically by being proactive within your current job. But let's say you actually are not working at the moment, you're at home and you don't really have a job. But you do want to really, really become a business analyst. This is where you have to get a bit creative. So now you can start looking for those types of opportunities. You could go search online, go look on freelancer websites. Sometimes you might find small little jobs there where you can help improve processes for people that's looking for that. If you don't want to build a whole freelancer profile and you don't want to go through that exercise, which I, by the way, think is quite a good way to get some practical experience, you can consider to talk to some of your family and friends who might be running businesses and just say to them, could I potentially come and do an interview where I understand how you do a certain part of your business? And then what you do is you go talk to them, you understand what are their business problems, what are the things they're struggling with. Let them explain to you exactly how do they do certain parts of their business. And then what you do is you take your business analysis skills, you document everything they tell you, you go and do a process map about how things are currently working, and you do make some recommendations of what they can potentially do to improve what they're doing. So it's a bit of time, it's a bit of effort, but it's real experience. And if you do a good job and you present this information to them in a nice format, I'm sure they'll be willing to be a reference for you. And you can potentially use that practical experience and put that on your resume. So there are definitely a lot of creative ways for you to find practical project experience that you can add to your resume, which is very important for business analyst job. Great. So I hope you are getting excited about how real this opportunity really is to you. So let's quickly recap steps 1, 2, and 3, just before I jump into the next very important step, step 4. So first of all, understand what business analysis is all about. Spend a couple of days. Then delve deeper by doing YouTube training or signing up for a course, and you're welcome to look at all the courses I offer. That will take you a month, maybe 2 months of dedicated study where you really upskill in all of those things that I said. Then thirdly, you start looking for opportunities to build some practical experience. And this can be done in parallel with while you are doing some learning. Or if you do it later on, that could potentially take maybe 1 to 2 months of dedicated work. So we're up to about 3-4 months now where you've really submerged yourself into this effort of becoming a business analyst. So now with step 4, very exciting step, because now we're starting to create your professional profile. So you now take your resume and make sure to document all of the different skills you've learned, as well as the projects that you've done, even if they're all volunteer projects. And you use language that is used within the business analysis world. A good way to know what to say in your resume is to research some job advertisements. So they will use the language that you should use within your resume. So also look at some of your study materials that you've used so that you use the same terminology that's being used within the market to describe all of your business analysis skills. And remember, if you do have some transferable skills, this is the time to start to use the language of business analysis to describe those transferable skills. Make sure that you learn how to write an awesome resume and use those keywords so that the recruitment search engines can pick up on it. Great. So now let's assume you've got an amazing resume. The next step is to build a really good professional profile on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is very important. And if you don't have that quite up to scratch yet, I highly recommend that you spend a bit of time, get yourself a nice headshot, get some proper descriptions in there about your strengths and your best capabilities, and build a proper LinkedIn profile. And again, there's lots of videos and YouTubes and opportunities for you to learn how to do that really well as well. So now with step 4, it's all about your presentation of these new skills that you've got, maximizing whatever you've done in the past to help you get into business analysis. One golden little nugget about how you can even make more of the experience you've already got is remember, business analysts can work in practically any industry. So if you are, for example, coming from a health environment, you may have done something practical in the health space. So now you want to become a business analyst. You would have built up amazing subject matter expertise whilst doing your role within the health sector. So make use of what you've learned by saying that you do have expertise within certain processes in the health sector, and make sure to lift that out in your resume as well. Okay, let's now jump to stage 5 or step 5. So you are now very, very much ready to start applying for jobs. But here is a little suggestion for you. Instead of just blindly sending job applications into 100 different jobs, why not build a relationship with a number of different recruiters that are looking for business analysts from time to time? So do a bit of research on LinkedIn and find who are those people within your city, wherever you are in the world, that is recruiting for business analysts. Doesn't take long, just do that little bit of effort and then introduce yourself to those people. And there are different ways you can do it. You can contact them directly via message. You can email them. You can even cold call them and say who you are and exactly what you're looking for, and start to build a relationship with those recruiters and be front of mind. So when they get a BA job and they know, oh, so-and-so, I know he's looking for a job or she's looking for a job, this is a great entry-level business analysis opportunity, and they are actually in the sector that you might be coming from. So building that relationship with 5 or 6 recruiters, or even more if you can, just to do that effort instead of just blindly applying for jobs. I'm not saying you shouldn't apply for jobs. You can also apply for jobs directly, definitely, because sometimes organizations are advertising for jobs directly as well. But take a multi-pronged approach, because this will help you shorten the time that it might take for you to actually land that job. And now that you've got your professional profile out there, you've got recruiters up your sleeve, you've got them all aware of you, the final step of this process is, once you start getting some interviews, make sure that you nail that interview. And again, I'm sure that you know that there are, by now especially, that there are a lot of great interview tip videos online. So make sure that you prepare yourself properly for that interview. Interviews are a lot about first impressions, especially in the beginning. So learn how to build rapport with the person or the people that's interviewing you. Do a few really key things. Have good body language, be friendly, be open, and address people directly when they ask you questions. There are a lot more to learn, so go and do some research in how to be a really good interviewee. With business analysis, most of the time it could be 1 or 2 interviews. Sometimes you'll meet the HR-related person first and maybe one other person from a project team. And sometimes not. It's not very consistent. So prepare to be interviewed by everybody at once, or be able to just go through a few different interviews depending on the organization's processes. Sometimes you may also be asked to do a small project assignment. So they might ask you to tackle a problem and draw a process map, for example. The few times that I've been asked to do that in my career, it was always a process diagram that I needed to show them that I can actually draw a process map. So it's a fairly simple but very important skill. So make sure that you can do that really well. So now, just to conclude all of this, you've got 6 steps. You start with learning properly what is business analysis anyway. Then you delve into the actual skills required by learning and doing courses, whether you do free courses, Udemy courses, or whether you sign up for one of my courses. That's up to you. But make sure that you get really good education. And then thirdly, get some practical experience. Oh, and by the way, I do run a 3-month project simulation where you can build up practical experience. There is a link in the description below if you're interested in that. But otherwise, make use of all those different ideas that I gave you in how you could gain some practical experience to put on your resume, because that is actually really important for business analysis. And then the 4th thing is you start building your professional profile. So both your resume, I recommend you do that first, and then you also write your LinkedIn profile. Once that's all polished and looking amazing, then you start building relationships with different recruiters and you start applying for some jobs. Make sure to apply for jobs that is actually relevant to what you can do. Don't just spam the world with your resume. be a bit particular, and make sure to apply properly for every single job that you apply, which means you write a proper cover letter for each and every job. And then finally, when you get to that interview, prepare yourself properly for that interview, be friendly, be open, and be professional, and be excited about your new role as a business analyst. So I hope that this process is not too daunting. If you think about it in the big scheme of things, it's a few months of a bit of hard work, a bit of focus and dedication, and then you've got a lifelong career of exciting, challenging, diverse, interesting work that you can always learn new things from. So I hope this video is helping you, and I hope this video is exciting you. Business analysis still has an open door for the right people. So make sure you're one of those people, and good luck with all your efforts. If you've got any ideas or questions for me, feel free to ask them in the comments. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next video.